going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS core plays for this week's Charles Schwab challenge. We've got a new Draftkings week, which means we're gonna take a peek at the top of the pricing. Gonna go over 4 players that I have my eye on this week for some of those large field contests for some much needed leverage, and are gonna be 4 of my highest exposure plays. Whether it's for the DFS perspective, I've also bet all 4 of these players outright already. So for whatever reason, I like these guys. I like their chances to go out there and take on Colonial Country Club. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some of my key stats of the week. In terms of a player prototype this week, there isn't really one way to get it done around this track. If you saw my course breakdown, it's not entirely long. It doesn't have that lush rough at all like you see at an Oak Hill Country Club, and you're looking for somebody that can really do everything. So we'll look at the key stats tab here, but I think it's worth noting that a lot of your iron shots are coming from the short iron ranges, a lot of those mid to short range par 4s. So we're taking a look at that in some of our modeling as well. Driving accuracy is usually the name of the game here over driving distance, but that may come into question based on some of the weather there on Wednesday. As of right now, they're calling for a 50% chance of heavy thunderstorms on Wednesday, and if they get a substantial amount of precipitation, we might be looking at a course that favors driving distance just a little bit more than it has historically. But even if that's the case, you're not looking at a bombers kind of golf course. It's much more about the approach play and then converting on those opportunities. So an approach and putting kind of golf course. And if you take a look at the winners over the years, that has been extremely evident. A lot of short, precise iron players that make a lot of putts have broken through here and won or finished in the top 5, top 10 consistently. So we're looking at around the green. This is a difficult course around and on the greens. It's part of the reason why we're looking at putting so much, but also important to look at guys that can get up and down. And if you're looking for a type of around the green play, it's much more of the shaved chip off areas than it was the heavy rough that you saw around in Oak Hill last week. So you're looking for like the Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler type of around the green players that get it done in that kind of way. Driving distance is on there, but slightly less important this week. And in terms of comp courses, we're looking at some of those short strategic tracks, right, that are relatively difficult on and around the green. Would definitely be the case with all these courses here. But yeah, looking at the match play course, RBC Heritage, right, a short, precise kind of track. Sony Open, same thing. A lot of dog legs from right to left too. Wyndham Championship, RSM Classic. You guys got the whole list there, right? All of those being incorporated into the analysis as well. So with that being said, what players do I have my eye on? And we're going to go ahead and start here in the 9K range. So these 10K golfers, guys, everyone knows to play at them, right? They all have great track records. I mean, some of them, right, have nearly won this golf tournament, going through a Scheffler and Finau at this point. There's no real argument that needs to be made there, right? Where I think you need to make your decisions might be down here in this 9 and 8K range. So we're going to focus there. I'll have players from this 10K range in my player pool, but just I feel like you could pick any of them, right? They're all great players. Scotty Scheffler is going to be super chalky this week, but it's well worth it. We'll talk more about those guys on Wednesday on the live stream, that is. What I want to focus on here is Jordan Spieth. I bet him outright, got him at 14-1 this morning. He's $9,900, and he's got the best track record at Colonial, and it's not even close. He's got a win here, multiple runner-up finishes, pretty much finishes in the top 15 every single time. In fact, is gaining nearly 2.5 strokes per round to the field in terms of all of his starts here, right? Not just like the last 3 or 4, over like the 10 or so starts he's had at this event. So massive sample size, has been ridiculously good. Even of late has been ridiculous. 7th, 2nd, 10th, 8th, and 32nd place. It's worth noting that here in 2019, 2020 especially was not playing particularly well, was missing a lot more cuts than he was making, and you see he had 2 top 10 finishes. So even in out of form, Jordan Spieth was playing well. And if you look at the ball striking numbers from the PGA Championship, he was one of the best players in the field, let alone one of the best players in his price range. Considering the fact that he's got the injury concerns weighing over him too, I don't think people are going to be running to the window to play Jordan Spieth here. I'm expecting reasonable ownership numbers, something maybe in the 15 to 20% range. And if we're going to get reasonably owned Jordan Spieth at a course that he loves in ridiculous form. I mean, we look at the last 36 measured rounds, he's one of the best players in the world, right? Gaining over a stroke per round, 0.6 strokes on approach across all 4 categories. Like I said, you need somebody that's well-rounded, that can kind of do everything, and that's been Jordan Spieth for his entire career. If you look at the last 12 measured rounds, right, even more of a gainer with the ball striking stats. Slight loser around the green. Some of that's because of the courses with a bunch of rough around the green. Now we get him back at one of those shaved off kind of courses where, like I said, him and a Scottie Scheffler really thrive at those sort of tracks where you can hit those little nipper, low little chip shots around the green. Those bump and runs like Scottie Scheffler likes to play. Those are when these guys are gaining like a stroke per round around the green. So I'm not worried about that. Love the ball striking. Jordan Spieth was wearing the tape out there in the wrist last week, so I do think the injury is legitimate, but it didn't bother him. The ball striking was unbelievable, right? It was the putting that didn't come through. And if anything, you would expect it to be the other way around if he was dealing with any sort of pain with the injury. So I bet him outright. I'm going to like him in DFS this week, at least if he's not going to be like 25% owned. And at least as of right now, it's still super early. A lot of things can change. I have him in that 15 to 20% range. So still liking it. Like him in DFS, like him over there in the outright market. And that shouldn't be a surprise given his track record around this track. Next up, we've got Sungjae Im, Sungbae Im, as I call him sometimes, because this guy pretty much fits every golf course, but he's a specialist at gaining across the board, right? Kind of like Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth. He's an extremely well-rounded player. In fact, if you take a look at the last 36 or the last 12 measured rounds, he's a clear gainer across the board. In fact, gaining a stroke and a half per round, clear gainers across all 4 categories. In the last 12 measured rounds, you see the same thing, right? The approach play, maybe not as sharp as you would hope for over that stretch, but historically one of the flushers with the irons. And what I really like about Sungjae, and I guess I probably should have mentioned with a Jordan Spieth, is those 100 to 125 yard wedge shots, or that 125 to 150 yard range where you're maybe hitting a pitching wedge or a 9-iron for these tour players. Jordan Spieth, one of the best players of all time in that range, literally just throws dart after dart. You're just expecting it with Jordan Spieth. Sungjae Im's the same way, right? The closer you're getting to the hole, the better that these guys are getting with their irons. So if you've seen the course breakdown, you'll know that a ton of your birdie opportunities are going to be with those clubs this week. And what I like about Sungjae too is how straight of a driver he is, right? And Jordan Spieth was great with the driver at the PGA, which is why I also like him here. But Sungjae is always a striper off the tee, right? One of the straightest players off the tee on tour. Also, both of them gaining with their bent grass stats. You can see a quarter of a stroke per round for Sungjae Im there. The event history, not quite as solid as a Jordan Spieth. He has a couple missed cuts in there, but a T10, a T15 finish, showing you that the upside is there as well. So hopefully he can spike through, actually get us that top 5, potentially even that winning upside here. And I did bet Sungjae outright, right? He doesn't always end up winning golf tournaments. He's a little bit more of a consistency kind of guy than anything. But I think if he's going to win, it's at a track where they really reward that precision and where you have to be an all-around player. And considering the value that I was able to get this morning, I thought it was well worth it. So Sungjae Im, count me in, $9,500. I think it's a fair price tag. People are going to go back to last year's champion Sam Burns. Justin Rose is playing well. Everyone's talking about Tommy Fleetwood right now. So the ownership is going to be there. It's deservingly so, though, right? Guys like Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, are clear values at their price. So just because of that doesn't mean you should avoid them, right? If you're going to take those kind of chalky players, we just have to consider that with the rest of our lineup, right? Maybe you don't play them together, or if you do, right, you really make sure to get different with 2 or 3 of the other 4 spots in your lineup. So it's all manageable. And then from the outright perspective, of course, we don't got to worry about that at all. It's worth noting, if you want to see all my ownership numbers, everything that's blacked out on here, my player pool as we get closer to lock, make sure to check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description. As per usual, just $10 a month gets you access to all of that, plus all of the prop content that I'm posting. I'm doing that for every single round, posting my slips and reasoning over there on Patreon. Also doing showdown content, right? So I do these spreadsheets over there for the weekend, rounds 2 through 4 for showdown. All of that is on there for that same price. So check it out. Yeah, if you've been wanting to see everything behind the scenes. Without further ado, though, our third core play going to be Rickie Fowler. He's $8,900, and he was one of the chalkiest plays on the slate at the PGA Championship and missed the cut. That is the only reason I think his ownership might be 20% opposed to the 30% that he probably should be. He is way underpriced, and even with the missed cut last week, is still number 3, number 2 across the board when it comes to the modeling, because in fact, he gained strokes last week at the PGA Championship and missed the cut on the number, right? So it's pretty misleading when you look at it just from the missed cut perspective, but he gained a bunch off the tee. He was really good around the green and lost about 2.5 strokes putting. That's just going to happen from time to time, right? And historically, he's been pretty damn good on bent grass. It's not his best putting surface, but it's not his worst putting surface either. And in Texas in the past, has been able to go out there and get those spike performances. He likes playing in Texas, tends to do it often. I can tell you that Texas golf is comparable to Florida golf, where it's relatively flat at most golf courses, and you also have windy conditions for the most part. Almost pretty much every day you're playing in Florida or in Texas, you're going to get that 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. So I like that for Rickie. He's used to those conditions. In terms of your form, you might not find a better player in the field. Again, gaining across all 4 categories. If you can't tell, that's a theme this week that I'm looking for up top. One of the best iron players in this field, and if you look at the last 12 measured rounds, which again includes a missed cut last week, is still gaining across the board. In fact, is gaining even more strokes. So $8,900, you're not going to find a better player when it comes to the form. And hopefully that very misleading missed cut last week at the PGA can keep his ownership low. I mean, I have him at a 93% cut rate. I mean, that's outrageous. I mean, it's higher than a Jordan Spieth. It's higher than a Sungjae Im. And believe it or not, it's about 1.5% less than Scottie Scheffler. So you're talking about somebody that I have as an extremely high floor player, but also brings you a lot of upside at just $8,900. So I know he's going to be chalky. He's the one player out of these 4 I can almost guarantee you might be among the top 2, top 3 highest owned players on the slate. And frankly, I don't care. Again, you'll navigate it just like these top 2, right? You maybe play at most 2 of these 3 players together, and then you differentiate. You make sure, right? You go out of your way to make sure that you're differentiating in other spots of your GPP lineup. And with our value plays, trust me, we'll have plenty of leverage to be had with our video tomorrow. But our last core play here, going to be Tom Hoge. He's $8,500, and he's not in form like these other players, right? I think there's a huge drop-off in terms of talent level after Rickie. I mean, you get down to Russell Henley, he's been playing pretty decent of late. I'll give him that, right? Even McCarthy and Cameron Davis have had good shots gained metrics, but they are clearly a much lower overall talent level than the other guys up top, right? And then you get down here to like Tom Hoge, Minwoo Lee. I mean, it drops off even further, right? There's almost like a 2 to 3 tier difference between the guys up here like a Siwoo, Rickie Fowler, and then this next set of players. So it feels nasty. $8,500 feels way too expensive, but I don't think anyone's going to play Tom Hoge, right? In terms of recent form, he's the worst player in this range, but despite that, is still doing his thing with the irons, right? Still gaining half a stroke per round, is right around a neutral with all 4 categories. So it's not like he's hemorrhaging strokes across the board, right? He's just kind of been playing mediocre golf over that stretch. What I want to focus on here, though, is like over the last 36 measured rounds, is one of the best iron players in this field. And once again, right around a neutral with the other 4 categories. So, I mean, you're looking at, look at this, 0.9 strokes per round compared to guys getting like 1, maybe 1.1 strokes per round up top. And you're buying the iron play. And at a course where you're going to have a lot of those short wedge shots, those 125 to 150 yard iron shots, that is exactly where Tom Hoge is within the top 5 on tour in all of the short iron categories. If you look at that 50 to 125, any way you break it down from, I believe, like 150 yards in, he's top 5 on the PGA Tour. So almost all his iron shots are going to be directly in his wheelhouse this week, which means I can tell you he's probably going to gain over a stroke per round with this iron play. If he can go out there, just make a few putts, I like his chances. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the core plays video. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead, smash that like button, but also go ahead and let me know who you've got winning this week. I'm going to go ahead and take Rickie Fowler. I think it might be his time to go ahead, get that breakthrough victory, a la somebody like a Jason Day, Brooks Koepka, getting back to their former levels. Rickie Fowler, right, has been trending in that direction for quite some time. And in my opinion, like I mentioned before, I think this is a perfect kind of venue for him to go out there and get that top end finish. But let me know down in the comments what you guys are thinking on your end. And best of luck with all of your GPP lineups, all of your outright bets this week. We're going to have even more content dropping, so make sure you stay tuned here on the channel for all of that. There'll be value plays, fades, and sleepers, our weekly live stream at 7 p.m. I mean, you guys know the deal at this point. If you don't know the deal, well, first off, welcome here to the channel, but also make sure you subscribe here so you don't miss any of that when it drops. I'm always posting here covering PGA DFS, the outright perspective, going live for Showdown, covering props too. If you guys are betting over there on like Prize Picks, Underdog, No House Advantage, that sort of thing. So make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already, so you don't miss any of that when it drops. Just long season. I know NBA is coming to an end here. Same thing with NHL. Well, golf pretty much goes the entire year. So when those are in the off season, maybe you need to be more of a regular over here on this end. Either way, though, best of luck to you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time for the Value Plays video.